Bettor Sports Betting is your home for picks, props, and futures for tonight's action. Bettor Sports Betting wants to know what picks you're playing tonight. Tell us in the live chat on YouTube, Twitter, and the Bettor Sports Network app. This is Bettor Sports Betting with Fantasy Alarm's Dan Servodidio.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome in here to the Bettor Sports Betting Show on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm YouTubes. Appreciate everyone jumping in on a Thursday afternoon. I am Dan Servodidio. Got James Grande with me back on this Thursday show. We got Thursday Night Football to talk about, James. We got some college football picks to give out. We got some NBA bets for you for tonight's two-game Thursday slate. What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing well. I would probably be doing better if it wasn't Panthers-Bears Thursday Night Football, but like,
get excited.
I mean, like we have like the recent thing with Al Michaels coming out saying like, yeah, I get it. People are mad at me. I'm not as enthusiastic as I once was. I'm old, but like, I get it. For on the flip side, like he gets Panthers-Bears on Thursday night, and like next week, I think we're going to have some fun next week, Servo. I think it's Ravens. It's a high profile matchup, maybe Ravens Bengals next Thursday, but like, I mean, nailed it. Okay. Ravens Bengals. Yeah, nailed it. So like,
that's a good game. Yeah.
Great game. But like, how many Ravens Bengals have we had on Thursday Night Football? I mean, this is the second time we've had the Bears on Thursday Night Football, and the Bears are terrible. And like, at least when Justin Fields was there, at least like, that was something interesting. So, it's at least the NBA exists, and you got college football, and I'm just gonna watch the NBA in Mexico City tonight, and probably just check in on how the football game's going, more so than like watching the football game and then checking out. No, I'm watching hoops tonight, Servo. What about you? What's on your plate tonight?
Maybe I shouldn't say this on the air, but me and my wife, a little guilty pleasure checking out Golden Bachelor and some Bachelor in Paradise. I will say this is the first time I've ever seen these shows, and it is very entertaining just to laugh at all these people. So that is part of the watching tonight. But of course, I will be tuning into just how our bets and fantasy and picks are going for these games. College football slate isn't great tonight. Got some great games on Saturday that I'll give out some picks for. Tomorrow's college basketball slate is gonna be awesome. We'll have some bets for that for sure. Tonight's college basketball not great either, but let's dive into this. By the way, I was looking at just down the line these Thursday nights. So you mentioned Ravens Bengals next week, and then we have the third Thanksgiving slate for the following Thursday, and then week 13 we got Seahawks Cowboys on a Thursday, so that's gonna be good. And then week 14, it's Steelers and Patriots, so not great there. But at least these next couple of weeks, we got one. But for tonight, it's not great. But we do have some bets here. If you got your own, definitely throw them in the chat here, as we always do on a Thursday. You guys got some of your picks, some of your same game parlays and all that. Throw them out here in the chat, and we'll touch on those. Bears 3.5-point favorites on the spread. 38 is the over/under in this game. I don't think either of us have a lean or a pick on like the spread or the totals. But before we get to our props for this, how do you see this going? I would lean to take the Panthers and the 3.5, just because I don't think the Bears should be favored by over a field goal against anyone at this point. But it is, Bryce Young and the Panthers have not had a strong season this year. So I get why they're underdogs by 3.5 here. But I don't know. Any overall thoughts on the game before we touch on some of our picks?
I kind of am with you. I would, if I was betting the game, I'd bet the points, the Panthers and the points as well. It's like their defense has been pretty good this year. You look at a lot of their metrics, and they haven't allowed a lot of yards through the air. They haven't allowed a lot of yards on the ground. They've forced some turnovers, and conversely, like the Bears have allowed the most passing touchdowns in football, and like the most passing yards to opposing quarterbacks, and like, so yeah, I would probably bet the Panthers, but like, we're betting a 1-7 team on the road is not like the most comfortable feeling. So I stayed away and just went, both of us stayed away and went the player prop route. But if I were to have a lean on the game, I'm in lockstep with you. I think it's Panthers plus 3.5.
All right. One of my props, I'll get right to it. I like Adam Thielen's receptions here, over 6.5 receptions on BetMGM. It's at minus 135. He was, pretty much held in check last week. He still had 5 catches, but only 29 yards against the Colts. But I just expect a bounce back here. He's been Bryce Young's favorite target all season long. Pretty much, since week 1, he's been over this reception prop, 7+ catches in 6 straight games before last week. So I think he's going to get back to that, getting 7, 8, 9 catches here because it's against the Bears defense that has one of the worst pass defenses in the league, allowing the 5th most passing yards per game this year, ranked 31st in pass DVOA this season. And I see some recent games, some recent receivers, especially possession receivers against the Bears. Chris Olave had 6 catches last week, but before that, Keenan Allen 8, Devontae Adams 7, Jacoby Myers 7 receptions. So I think Thielen is a guy that's been over this line a bunch before last week, so I think he's going to get back to that with his. He is the target hog, the reception monster in this Panthers offense with, a lot of them short yardage, but Bryce Young is just looking his way, looking the veterans' way for easy completions more often than not. So, yeah, give me the over on Thielen's receptions.
Yeah, and DJ Chark, doubtful to play this game. And, he's been operating as the number 2 receiver. It's interesting to see Thielen, maybe, older guy, maybe you would see some, I guess, as we hit the tail end of the season, things start slowing down. And over the last 2 weeks, he's played 97 and 100% of the snaps. So he's on the field every single down.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that quite a bit. The Bears, as you profiled, they're terrible, allowing yards to the air. Where they're not terrible, Servo, is on the ground. They have not allowed a 40-yard rusher for 4 straight games. So I'm gonna make that bet a 5th straight game with Chuba Hubbard under 40.5 rushing yards. Look, their defense, for the lack of they've given up just boatloads of yards through the air, as we mentioned. It's been middle of the pack and closer to the end of the beginning of the year, it was pretty brutal. Last 4-5 games has been really great, as I mentioned. They've now allowed the same amount of rushing yards with Dallas, 568, and we think of Dallas as one of the best defenses in football. Yep. That's the 5th fewest rushing yards in the league. There's this weird thing going on in Carolina right now. Chuba Hubbard has obviously taken over with Miles Sanders as the lead back, but the last 2 weeks, Chuba Hubbard, last week 16 attempts, 3.6 yards per carry. Week 8 against Houston, 15 carries, 28 yards, 1.9 yards per carry. He has not separated himself from Miles Sanders all that much. I mean, this is a guy averaging less than 4 yards per carry this year. I know, I understand he's going to get the bulk of the work, but we've just touched on how you beat the Bears, and it's through the air. So I think Carolina is going to come out throwing a lot tonight. I would expect Chuba Hubbard's rushing the carries to be down a little bit from the 16, 15, 19 he's had the last 3 weeks, especially because he's only had 1 good game over that stretch. Yeah. So I'm going to go under 40.5 yards. The Bears limiting opposing rushers right now, and I think Bryce Young's going to beat him through the air.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Miles Sanders just still being there. I know Hubbard's been out carrying him in these recent games, even with Sanders back, but the fact that he is there, just being, on a short week, Thursday night, maybe the veteran Sanders gets a little bit more work too. And last week I was looking at his game logs. He averaged 6.5 yards per carry. Did Sanders only had, a handful of carries, but still, if he's being, tonight, if he's running more efficient than Hubbard, then he might get kind of the hot hand there, limiting Hubbard's rushing yards overall. But I mean, you mentioned it, the Bears rush defense. That they added Montez Sweat at the trade deadline,
Right.
so like just bolstering a rush defense that was bad at the beginning of the year, but have really picked it up lately. So yeah, I'm liking that. I'll go to the Bears side of things here. Tyson Bagent getting the start again with Justin Fields out tonight. I'm going under his passing yards, under 187.5 on BetMGM. It's low. I realize that, but the Panthers defense, we're just talking about the Bears. The Panthers defense, one of the best in the league in terms of passing yards allowed per game, only allowing 178 passing yards per game, fifth lowest in the NFL. On the flip side, their rush defense is fifth worst in the NFL. And I see the Bears here with Khalil Herbert back from injury tonight. Him and Donta Foreman, I feel like, is a nice 1-2 punch to just kind of lean on the run game, especially in this matchup. And, the 3.5 spread for the Bears, like it's kind of implying the Bears might be leading and playing with a lead maybe late. So I feel like it could be more of a run-focused offense, preventing Bagent from throwing any interceptions, which he's had trouble with lately in the last couple starts. Just kind of, a game manager type role for Bagent here, especially with this matchup. And the Panthers, I mentioned, just allowing, under 180 passing yards per game this year. 4 of 8 opposing quarterbacks have been held under 180 passing yards this season, and that includes the past 2 opposing quarterbacks, Gardner Minshew and CJ Stroud, only at 140 in this matchup, and we just saw what he just did last week, almost throwing for 500. So I think this is going to be one of those lower passing yard games for Bagent, who in his 3 starts this year, he's been at 162, 232, and 220. So and those 2 overs that he hit were with the Bears trailing and him throwing a little bit more. But I think this will be on the lower end for tonight.
Yeah, no way we see a 37 pass attempt
right
game, again in the 38 total, where they're favorites and expected to run. Like, it's just not going to be that game script.
Yeah,
seemingly doesn't exist, right? Like, they're not facing the Chargers offense where the Chargers are going to put up 30 and force Bagent to throw. So I fully agree there. I'll go to the other quarterback in this game. I like the Bryce Young over pass attempts here. This is the third mention. You mentioned it, I mentioned it, and I'm going to mention it again. You beat the Bears through the air. That is how they've been beat the entire season. They've allowed 20 touchdowns. They've allowed 2,300 passing yards, the 4th most in the league. You mentioned the 5th most per game. And Bryce Young has consistently hit overs. He's hit the over on this pass attempt mark on the road in all 3 games this year. He's only missed twice in the 7 games he's played. So give me over 32.5 pass attempts for Bryce Young in a quarterback's dream scenario. Minus 115 over on BetMGM. I really like it. I think he smashes the over here. I mean, we've seen him hit and surpass 40 pass attempts this year. So I could see a scenario where that's the game script for Carolina, especially they're going to struggle on the ground if the Bears defense continues to be as good as it's been over the last 4 weeks. So look for Bryce Young to come out throwing early and often, over 32.5 pass attempts over on BetMGM.
Yeah, it plays right into just, I guess, our overall view of this and the matchup. So, by the way, I'm looking right now, Khalil Herbert not activated for tonight's game for the Bears. Yep. So, I mentioned, maybe the Bears lead on the run with him and Foreman, but last week, Foreman got 20 carries anyway. They're fine giving him a workhorse role either way and leaning on the run with him. So not shying away from the Bagent passing yards under, even with Herbert out tonight. I haven't looked at it all, but maybe you look at some Foreman props now if he's going to be getting the rock a little bit more. So all right, so those were some Thursday night football bets. Not a great watch, but I'll be seeing how these props hit out towards the 4th quarter and stuff. All right, let's talk
during your bachelor experience. You'll be tuning in, or get a little sneak peek at ESPN on your phone.
I'm telling you, give it a chance tonight. It's gonna be more entertaining than Thursday Night Football. I'll tell you that.
No. You can't convince me to watch it. I'll be watching. Look, dude, the hoops in elevation tonight. They're in Mexico City. I'm watching.
Okay.
I'm watching. Okay. Hawks Magic. Can't miss.
Well, we're gonna get to that in just a little bit here. Give out some bets for that game and others for NBA. Let's talk some college football though here. And if you haven't already, jump in the BettorEdge contest, the Servo 7 contest that's going on every week over on BettorEdge. College football totals competition. You just pick 7 games over under the total. Don't have to worry about spreads or total or winners for any of it. Just pick over under any of these 7 totals. There's about a 20 game sample size, but just pick out your favorite 7. BettorEdge.com/better. Use promo code BETTOR, BETTOR, to get $20 when you sign up and verify. No deposit required. It's a free competition. You just have to verify your account there. And you can win back money. And again, it's free to enter. I barely lost last week, but I won the week before. So if you want a free pick here, I'll give it out one of the ones I'm taking in this contest. Alabama, Kentucky. Give me the under in this one. 49 is what the over-under is listed at over on BettorEdge. It's down to about 47 and a half at some sports books. So it's been trending to the under, but either way, I like the under, overall in this game. Alabama coming off a huge win over LSU last week, and also beat, a good emotional big win for them against Tennessee the week before. I just see a little bit of a flat, game from Alabama in this, where I just feel like they're going to try to get out with a win. And it's against a Kentucky defense that's, above average, and they're better than LSU. LSU's defense is terrible. So Alabama, Jalen Milroe really benefited from a great matchup last week, but Kentucky comes in with just, not allowing as many explosive plays. They're a lot better against the run. So I think they're going to shut down Milroe's, dual threat there, make him force some, just a more passing focused offense, which Milroe is not great as a passer, especially, in the short to intermediate areas of the field. So I just feel like this is going to be a lower scoring game for Alabama's side and Kentucky too. I mean, Alabama's defense is still, one of the top tier units in the country. And I think their defense is going to travel to this game at Kentucky. Devin Leary has, been up and down this year for Kentucky at quarterback, but they like to lean on Ray Davis in the run game. And I feel like that's going to be one of their focuses in this one, to just try to keep this one close. It's 11-point spread. I would consider taking Kentucky to cover too. I just think they're going to keep this one lower scoring, focused on defense to limit Alabama's, explosiveness down the field, and Milroe's running, as I mentioned. So I like the under in this one. Also, just the vibe of this. It's a 12 p.m. Eastern noon kickoff in Kentucky. I just feel like it's going to be a little bit, the first half for sure, I think is going to be a low scoring, but I think the full game too, it's just going to be one of those low scoring SEC games that I have my eye on. So yeah, take the under in this one. Got a few more other picks. By the way, on Fantasy Alarm coming up later tonight, I will have some best bets out for a couple games that I won't touch on here, but you got to get the All Pro subscription to get those bets. But I got a couple other picks that I'll give out here.
Yeah, so I see you're going to the Connor Stallions Bowl. Will Connor Stallions be stealing signs for Michigan in this game against Penn State, Servo? What's your take? Well, is he back to? I don't know if you heard this new development with his vacuum, his vacuum business. More points scored in this game, or more vacuums on his porch in that one picture?
There's a lot of vacuums on that porch.
There's a lot of vacuums.
Well, let's see. The total in this one's 45. I don't know. Was there 50 plus vacuums on that porch? Maybe.
It looked like it might look like there was 50 plus vacuums. What do you got for Michigan Penn State here?
Well, this one, I don't. We'll see if Michigan has the signs for Penn State in this one. Stallions won't be on the sideline. We know that. He is suspended, and I don't think he's been fired yet, but likely will be fired. But I like the under in this one. This is going to be a great game to watch, Michigan, Penn State. And it's a matchup of the number 1 and number 2 defenses in college football in terms of total yards allowed per game, number 1 and number 3 in terms of scoring defenses this year. Michigan is the number 1 defense, and Penn State is number 2 and 3 respectively in there. But this is a defensive matchup for sure. And Michigan comes in; they've been rolling this year, but it's against an easy schedule. They have yet to face a defense as good as Penn State's. The best one they faced was Rutgers, and that was a 31-7 final score under this total, obviously. I see something similar. I think Penn State can keep it closer, but I just don't think Michigan is going to have as much success offensively on the road against a really good, underrated Penn State defense, in my opinion, because the Penn State's just, they lost to Ohio State earlier this year, but they're kind of flying under the radar of like, no one wants to face this defense. They have a lot of really good talent. Number 2 against the rush, number 10 against the pass. And Michigan is a team that would like to run the ball and keep it away and really, manage each possession. But Penn State really stout against the run. I think is going to shut down that element and really force J.J. McCarthy to be, more of a playmaker. I don't think it's going to go too well. But so, yeah, give me the under in this one. I also like the fact that, this is a Penn State team that they faced 2 good defenses this year, and both those games went under the total, under this total. There was a 20-12 loss to Ohio State, which I think is a similar game flow and similar matchup to this one against Michigan. So I feel like this is going to be a spot where Drew Aller, the quarterback, he's yet to prove that he can light up a good defense and have success. He struggled against Ohio State. Both teams lack explosive playmakers and explosive plays on both sides. So this just has under written all over it for this really good top 10 matchup.
Doesn't what's the coach of Penn State? Franklin? Is that his name?
James Franklin. Yeah.
Isn't he notoriously bad in big games? Isn't that hasn't that haunted him for like a long time, right?
Yeah.
Like, hasn't won versus a top 10 team like ever or something like that?
Yeah. I don't know the exact stat, but yeah, and whenever he faces Michigan or Ohio State, it does not go well for him. So
no.
I was considering taking Penn State on the spread here. It's only 4.5, which is really interesting,
right.
But he's yet to prove that he can win against Michigan or Ohio State consistently. So, yeah.
Well, maybe he needs to wake up as we move on to Wake Forest versus NC State here. Servo, what do we got in Wake Forest, NC State, battle of 2 ACC teams? I mean, maybe. I don't know conferences anymore. I'm assuming they're both still in the ACC.
They're still in the
right?
ACC, yep, and will be next year as far as I know.
Okay.
So this game, I'm not even going to give any X's and O's for this. This is a pure vibes play for me, which sometimes can work, sometimes it doesn't. But I feel like this is a vibes play that's going to work. And give me Wake Forest plus the 2.5. I would consider taking them on the money line. North Carolina State, they've been rolling with MJ Morris as their quarterback in recent games, and their offenses look good. They've been winning games with him. He is now benched. He's now redshirting. Has been announced that he is going to sit out the rest of the year because he doesn't want to burn his extra year of eligibility. He's going to redshirt for next year. So they're going back to Brennan Armstrong as their quarterback, transfer for Virginia. But beginning of the year when Armstrong was under center and Morris was the backup, this NC State offense was not great. It wasn't nearly as efficient as with Morris under center. And just the general vibe of that, this team was winning with Morris under center. Now he's not going to be playing. I just feel like the team in general is going to be really bummed about this. And the other part of this is that NC State won last week. They got their 6th win. They are bowl eligible now. I feel like it's a little bit of a letdown after now. It's already they're going to make a bowl. The quarterback just got benched. And I just feel like going on the road to Wake Forest, this is a classic, trap letdown spot because Wake is a team that needs 2 more wins to become bowl eligible. And this one is key. They got to win this one because they have a really tough game next week, but their regular season finale matchup is against Syracuse, which should be a win. So this is a game they need to win to become bowl eligible. And Wake over the years with Dave Clawson as the head coach has been really good as an underdog in general. So I like that whole aspect. But in general, I'm just kind of fading NC State with just with their quarterback change, with the team just becoming bowl eligible, and maybe just a little bit of letdown because they don't really they can't play for the ACC title. They're just they're going to make a bowl, and that's about it for them this year. And with their quarterback now gone and Brennan Armstrong back under center, I just don't love the vibe of the Wolfpack here.
Sometimes it's all about vibes, Servo. Sometimes it's all about vibes. Speaking of Georgia, I have a vibe that Georgia's just never going to lose a football game again. They might not. Never again until the end of time. But this is a tough matchup taking on a top 10 opponent here. Ole Miss 8-1 this year. What are we feeling about Georgia Ole Miss?
Yeah.
Georgia home is the home team, right? In this one. So
Georgia at home here. It's interesting. We got number 2 against number 9, like a top 10 matchup. But the spread, 10.5 for Georgia, I think that says a lot about just how Georgia is still just a tier above Ole Miss. And I'm taking Georgia and the Bulldogs to cover as favorites here at home. I see Ole Miss, they're 8-1, they're top 10 ranked, but their one loss was against Alabama earlier this year. They lost by 14 in that one. They were out physical. Their offense was really held in check. Their defense cost them a little bit, and I just see a similar game here against Georgia when they face the top tier of the SEC. They already proved they couldn't win against Alabama or keep it as close, and I think Georgia's going to get a double-digit win and cover this 10.5 point spread. Georgia is looking better. I know they didn't cover last week. I took them last week against Missouri, and they won by 9, but they did not cover the spread there. I think they get back to it and really get another convincing win against Ole Miss. It's going to be a great resume booster for a team that the college football rankings have been out, and Georgia's behind Ohio State. And I feel like there's a little bit of an edge there for them to really get a convincing win here and prove to everyone that they should be the number 1 team in the country, the number 1 seed going to the college football playoff eventually. And this is a great, I think, matchup for Georgia and a bad matchup for Ole Miss because the Ole Miss defense is a big worry. They've kind of gotten by against some of the lower SEC teams and squeak by in some games, but Georgia's a different animal. And their offense with Carson Beck playing as well as he is and just a balanced offense, I think they can really stretch out a lead against Ole Miss. And on the defensive side for Georgia, just kind of frustrate Jackson Dart, in his road start here and force some turnovers and just really, I think, handle this one from start to finish. I would throw out Georgia in the first half spread if you want to look at that too, but I'm taking the full game here. Not worried about the 10.5 either. I just think it's going to be like a 2-touchdown win for Georgia here at home.
I'm confused how I understand last year is last year and whatever strength of schedule and stuff. How is Georgia, based on like the last X amount of years, how are they ever dethroned until they lose as the number 1 team in the country? How does that work?
So they're number 1 in the AP poll, which is like the AP voters. A lot of these guys are kind of casual college football guys, so they're just blindly putting Georgia number 1. But the college football committee is really taking into account like what's your best wins, what's your strength of schedule, and Georgia's strength of schedule this year has not been great, admittedly. So that's the reason why. And Ohio State is number 1 because they've beaten Penn State, they've beaten Notre Dame. So it's like they have the better wins, and the harder strength of schedule this year. But Georgia, this matchup, they took care of Missouri last week. This one against Ole Miss gonna be a really good resume booster. Win against the top 10 team. That's why I think they're going to want to win comfortably and just kind of show everyone, all right, we didn't go anywhere, so we're still here.
Y'all must have forgot that we
forgot about Dre.
3 years. Yeah.
So that's some college football picks. Again, I'll have an article coming out later tonight with some other bets for games this weekend. Featured Arizona, Colorado James, am I fading Deion Sanders in Colorado again? We'll see.
Every week you are. You're fading Deion every week. Even with, I don't know if you saw, big deal. He had the picture on a cereal box. I don't know if you saw that. Master P on the sidelines had him and Snoop Dogg came up with, I don't know what cereal they have, but he was standing on the sidelines with a picture of Deion's face on a cereal box.
Yeah.
So, first time I've seen a coach on a cereal box, Servo.
Dude, he. I mean, listen, he's like the biggest name in college football, so
sure.
taking advantage of it. All right. By the way, tonight on the BettorCast app, we are gamifying Thursday night football. So Panthers-Bears, we are in the BettorCast app. So download the BettorCast app on the Apple app and Google Play stores. You can win some awesome NFL signed gear and collectibles by answering questions, pregame questions, in-game questions about, who's going to score next, different things with that. So definitely download the BettorCast app if you haven't already. All right, NBA Thursday night. Only a couple games on the slate tonight, but I know you got some picks. You'll be tuned in, as you said. So give us one. Bucks Pacers tonight. Where are you going with this one?
I'm taking the over, and this was prior to the Dame Lillard news. Dame Lillard downgraded to questionable back-to-back. Actually, both these teams in a back-to-back, but the Bucks had some weird stuff happen last night where Giannis got maybe wrongfully ejected.
I saw that. And he took a seat in the first row.
Took a seat. Yeah. The guy, I don't know if you saw, there was a fan who took a video of it where he sat next to him. It was pretty cool. That must be very cool to be that fan, just with a picture of Giannis sitting next to him forever. But it looks like Giannis, they listed him probable, is going to play tonight. And this is a matchup between two of just the better offenses in basketball, two of the fastest paced teams in basketball. Indiana second in pace, Milwaukee sixth in pace. Offensive ratings, Indiana, which is so weird to see. Indiana's the number one rated offensive team in basketball. They've also put up 150 twice this year. So they've been scoring a lot of points. And it's been no secret, Milwaukee has no idea what they're doing on defense with the implementation of a new head coach, a new system, and putting Dame Lillard in there for Jrue Holiday. Naturally, your team just becomes worse defensively. You go from one of the best perimeter defenders in basketball to Jrue Holiday to Dame. And when you look at both these teams, the overs in Pacers games have hit 7 of 8, Milwaukee 5 of 7.
Wow.
So the overs are strong in both of these teams' games. Again, lack of defense. When you talk about pace in NBA, the faster a team plays, the more possessions naturally they have, right? More possessions equals more points. So it's like a very simple equation. So I'm taking the over 240.5. I mean, that's a lot of points. It's actually moving too on BetMGM. Looking now, it's 241.5. So if you can find it at 240.5, that would be great. But the overs are pretty locked with these two teams and their offensive ratings these days.
All right. How about, so is Giannis playing after he was ejected?
Yeah, he's probable.
Okay.
Yeah, probable. He only played 29 minutes last night.
Yeah.
So you typically maybe something you Giannis on a back-to-back we've had to worry about in the past, and I'm not a big narrative guy. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, he's pissed from last night. But, he played 22 minutes, so I was 7 minutes off. He's definitely a little ticked off, and ankle soreness is probably just a random injury that they decided, let's just throw something on. But he should be good to go. He's 35, 36 minutes in competitive games this year.
Dude, I have ankle soreness. I think I'm questionable for the rest of the show.
Yeah, don't we all? I think we all have some type of soreness going on.
I got up from bed and I had ankle soreness. So,
yeah.
All right. How about the Mexico game in elevation tonight? Hawks Magic. You got any picks for this one?
Yeah, so I like Franz Wagner to get north of 4.5 rebounds. He's done this in 6 of his last 7 games. He's done it in 6 of 8 overall. The 2 that he hasn't, he's hooked us with 4 at this number. He has been really, really good on the glass. They're missing their starting center, Wendell Carter Jr. And that means Goga Batadze and Mo Wagner, Franz Wagner's brother, are their starting centers, both of which, are not as good and not don't attack the glass nearly as well as Wendell Carter Jr. does. 5+ rebounds in each of the games that Wendell Carter's missed. And I think it's worth noting, in both those games, kind of got out of hand. 15-point loss, 19-point win. Franz Wagner only played 33 minutes. And in competitive games this year, he's played 37, 38, and 35 minutes. So, in NBA, like, missing 3 to 5 minutes of a game is a big deal, because there's obviously, you need all the stats to accrue, right? In betting, in DFS. So this is slated to be a really fun, competitive game. It is a 3.5-point spread in favor of the Hawks on the road, because the Magic are considered the home team here, which, again, just doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of things, because they're in Mexico. But I digress. I like the Franz Wagner rebounds. He's been super productive, -115 over on BetMGM. I am taking the over there.
I love how Franz and Mo are playing together for the Magic. That's awesome to see.
It is pretty cool. Another brotherly NBA pairing. Not that this has no correlation, but there is 2 players, Keegan Murray and Chris Murray. They are twins.
Yeah.
And they played last night. And Chris Murray blocked Keegan Murray, and they did a post-game jersey swap, and it was just, I saw a tweet someone put out, like, now we have no idea who's who. Like, it's just
they're like identical twins too.
Identical twins.
They both starred at Iowa the past 2 years, and the one year, 2 years ago, I think it was Keegan Murray was like the stud for Iowa and lighting it up, and it was a lottery pick. And then the next year, and that year, his brother Chris Murray was like barely played and only got in the game a little bit. And then the next year, it was basically they just put Chris Murray right in the same spot as Keegan, and like there's the jokes going around like, is this just Keegan Murray like coming back to play?
Right.
But yeah, all right. How about you got another pick in this game, right?
Yeah, Trae Young to double-double. I've loved Trae Young's passing this year. His offense has not been great, although he has scored 20 points in basically every game he's played this year. Trae Young is a walking double-double. Like, this is not new. He has 3 straight games with a double-double. He has 5 in his last 6 overall. And he's really good in pick and roll. He loves pick and roll with his centers, Clint Capella rolling to the basket, catching lobs all the time. The points are money in the bank, right? I mean, he shot better than 40% just twice this year. And again, he's averaging 22 points per game. It's the assist that we, have to worry about. His low mark this year is 8. And he's just been a double-double machine. The Hawks, just to bolster the argument, are the 4th best offensive rated team in basketball, and they're making a lot of shots. You look at their new kind of starting lineup, the implementation of Jalen Johnson, a guy who is always slashing to the basket, who's shooting 40% from 3. Sadiq Bey, 40+% shooter from 3. DeAndre Hunter has been a glue guy for them. Bogdan coming up the bench. Like, Hawks are really deep, and everyone passing, or Trae Young is passing the ball to, is just making shots. So I love the Hawks point guard to double-double tonight. I love, honestly, I think if I were to peg a breakout game for Trae Young, it's tonight. He's been shooting the ball too poorly. Like, I'd be all in, and this isn't something that I bet or put on our sheet, but I would bet a waterfall prop for Trae Young tonight, like a points prop. I know it's at 23.5 to the over. If you can get into like a waterfall, bet the 23.5, bet the 24.5, bet the 20, like, I'm telling you, like, this is a really good spot for Trae Young, who, the Magic are pretty good defensively. But the expectation is Markelle Fultz comes back tonight, who is a good defender, not great, but then he's going to, get matchups with Cole Anthony, who's, known for his offense and definitely not his defense. So I think we get the Trae Young breakout tonight, definitely a double-double, and chance for a lot of points scored as well there in Mexico City. 231.5 total. Elevation, usually if this was an outdoor sport, we'd be talking about like the ball traveling further or something. But and I was looking at just to see if they had a game in Mexico City last year. It was Spurs Heat, and I was seeing if the minutes were impacted at all. And when I saw Victor Oladipo played 34 minutes, him and his bum knees played 34 minutes, I wasn't worried at all about cardio, like the cardiovascular at all. I think all systems go for every player in elevation. Yeah. If Victor Oladipo and his knees can do it, anybody can do it.
What was the total of that game? Because I would expect it to be like a higher scoring game, just like if people are tired defensively, they're kind of taking, defensive plays off. Maybe it's just a higher scoring game in general, which would help, your Trae Young pick and even your Franz Wagner pick if there's some more missed shots, which is people launching.
It was not high, but also you have to factor in that was a Miami Heat team that's been bottom 5 in pace for like the entire Eric Spoelstra era, and that was Spurs pre-Wemby.
That was a bad Spurs
so like yeah, it was 111-101, so not a lot of points scored. There was no top 5 offense, top 5 pace team like Atlanta in that game.
To your point about Trae Young, he's yet to have like a 20 or a 30-point game this year, or even a 25-point game, right? So like one of those has to be coming, where he's just draining and doing it all with the assist too. Like that. I might hit that escalator as soon as we get off here.
Dude, it's just one of those things where he is an elite scorer. No matter what you think of Trae Young, the player and the personality, because I know like he's, and a lot of, I think people disrespect Trae Young, the basketball player a lot, too small, misses too many shots, can't win, whatever the case may be, your opinion on Trae Young, he can score the basketball. And we're talking about a guy who's almost a 30-point per game scorer, shooting 33%, 27% from 3. This is a guy who's been one of the better shooters and deeper shooting point guards in the league for the last however many years he's been in the league. So the breakout's coming. Don't you worry. It's been the DeJounte Murray show the last few games. DeJounte had a 41-point game like last week, but the Trae Young breakout's coming, and I think the fans in Mexico are going to get a treat tonight from Ice Trae. I think we're going to get one of those no longer because he's missing all of his shots. It's going to be more of like, yeah, I'm back. Here's Ice Trae is back.
All right, I can get behind that, man. All right, so those are some NBA bets for tonight. Again, if you missed it, we broke down some Thursday night football, gave out some college football picks for Saturday's slate. So definitely go back and watch any of those. Coming up after us on Fantasy Alarm YouTube, we got the Fantasy Alarm Thursday game day preview with John and Pemba and Andrew Cooper, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then over on Bettor Sports Network YouTube, 7 p.m. Eastern, is the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show with Eric Balkman. So if you got any fantasy questions for tonight's Thursday night or just in general for Week 10, definitely hit up those shows and throw your questions in the chats on YouTube. And then Bettorcast tonight for Panthers-Bears Thursday Night Football, 8:15 kickoff tonight Eastern Time. So jump in the Bettorcast app if you haven't already for Thursday Night Football. Awesome stuff, James. Appreciate the Thursday night bets and picks that we all gave out here. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, Bettor Sports Betting, 4 p.m. Eastern. Howard Bender and I giving out some NFL Week 10 bets for Sunday's slate. So definitely tune in there for those. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Good luck and enjoy Golden Bachelor tonight while you're watching Thursday Night Football. Later.
Oh, that's funny.